state of California, and a man running entirely on a platform based on running fake Facebook ads to shame Mark Zuckerberg. Adriel Hampton, mellow greetings, future governor-elect. How are you?
Mellow greetings to you, James. I'm doing all right, thanks.
I am super excited to have you on here. So real quick, maybe sort of if you could give people like a 1 or 2 minute rundown of, how we got to this place and where we are and exactly what it is you do, and then we can kind of get into the nitty gritty on it.
Yeah. So I make a living as a digital marketer focused on politics, and I do a lot of work on Facebook, particularly around engagement ads that are designed to get people to react and interact with you. It's the kind of stuff you see a ton of from the big organic pages, and I help candidates with their advertising. So I also have a PAC. It's called the Really Online Lefty League, and I stood up that PAC to basically be able to hit the GOP really hard. I feel like you need entities that can do things that candidates don't, and in this climate, I'm not saying that I don't want to say it's about situational ethics, but when you have Donald Trump as president and he's just running roughshod over all the norms in your country, people say, what would you do during the rise of a fascist regime, right? And you have to, I think, act in a serious way. And anyway, so I had this PAC. I was doing a few things with it, but not a lot. Wasn't raising much money. But I was listening in October to this hearing with Ocasio-Cortez, and she was questioning Mark Zuckerberg, and she asked about a scenario on Facebook, which I was really also very aware of through my work, which is that politicians aren't subject to fact-checking on Facebook, and it became clear that they could advertise falsehoods with no repercussions and just continue to spread disinformation. And she asked Zuckerberg if she could do that, and, for example, say that a politician who opposes her supports the Green New Deal, or one of her opponents supports the Green New Deal. So we went ahead and we made that ad.
We were just like, hey, it would be funny. Let's see if Zuckerberg will actually pull an obviously ludicrous fake ad. And then you all kind of just looked around and said, yeah, let's do that. And then you actually did it.
Yeah, and it was so funny. One of the lessons I think, that I learned, and that's really applicable for all activists, is that you just have to keep on doing things if you're trying to make an impact. If you have a plan, like with the PAC, it wasn't like we didn't get any media coverage for the first 9 months of the things that we did, and they were significant to me. They took real work, and then we did this ad, and it went super viral. It was the biggest thing I've ever been part of to date. And the ad, my colleague at the Institute for Progressive Memetics, Mike Ramsey, I was discussing with him, okay, so Ocasio-Cortez did this confrontation with Mark Zuckerberg, and she said, what if I did an ad? So I was like, we could just can you do a meme, that has somebody endorsing the Green New Deal and it's not true, and we'll see what Facebook does. And he's like, well, it's too complex. We need a video. And so he puts together this 90-second spot that's a really good video, and I think that's what made it so successful, because it was an idea. Some of the journalists actually would say yeah, we were just waiting for someone to do it, or if I had worked for a different org, that would let me get away with it, I would have done it to test it, So it was this test case, and also because when Ocasio-Cortez or Senator Warren or Joe Biden or Donald Trump are in the news for problems with Facebook, it usually is in and out because they have so many other things in their portfolio, so many other things people are talking to them about and reporting on, whereas I could just focus on this issue. So for really about 2 weeks, it was in the news, in the media, and then it kind of all flamed out. Oh, actually, I mean, I'm missing the big part of the story, your introduction, which is, uh, you're getting me excited now. Yeah, I was like, the ad got taken down after a couple of days, and they said, "Oh, well, politicians can run fake ads," and they're now saying political parties can run fake ads, but uh, you're still subject to third-party fact checking if you're a political action committee, and so that was the excuse to remove it. And so I got up that Monday morning, and I was like, I wonder what the requirements exactly are to run for governor in California. And it's not the normal thing you wake up on a Monday thinking, but I, as a consultant, had run a campaign statewide in California, so I'm familiar with like how to do it, but I hadn't done the actual filing part. I'm familiar with how to run the campaign, and I looked it up and it's pretty basic. And so I went to the post office. I filled out the required paperwork. I had the postmaster take a photo of me, like a doofy, really bad lighting, holding the form. Behind, I'm wearing a shirt that says, it says "fuck this asshole" and it's Donald Trump, but you can't see it. Yeah, unfortunately. Anyway, that photo, like, went everywhere. It was like, I think the New York Times used it. And, because that became the story, not just that we'd done this viral fake ad about the Green New Deal and it looked like Lindsey Graham was endorsing the Green New Deal or had endorsed it. All of a sudden, there's a candidate whose exegesis is fake ads on Facebook. Yeah.
I hate to say this, but so for the last couple of days we've been getting all excited. We're like, oh my god, Adriel's actually gonna like come on here and talk to us. Like, I mean, you've been on like CNN and MSNBC. Like this is like a big deal. And so I actually used to live in California, and I was in California when Brown retired and Schwarzenegger ran. And there was a big thing where like there were like 70 people on the ballot. It was like two porn
Well,
stars.
the whole recall mess, right?
Yeah,
Gray Davis gets
yeah.
recalled, and then
It was
it was bankrolled by ISA from SoCal.
it was
Yeah,
absolute insanity. So I was actually in LA in California when that happened. And so obviously, I mean, I know you. We operate in similar digital circles, although I don't think you and I have ever spoken before.
yeah.
But when I heard that somebody was gonna I'd seen your ad stuff, and then I heard you were gonna actually put in for governor, and I'm like, that's very viable because literally like porn stars and a homeless man who wears a Superman suit on Hollywood Boulevard actually got on the ballot in California. It was like 90, no, it was 04, I want to say, 02 or 04. It was when Schwarzenegger won. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, if he could actually get on the ballot, he could totally push the envelope on the fake political advertising thing. And lo and behold, like a week later, I'm reading online and I'm like, oh my God, it's Adriel. And he actually fucking did that. Like, I was
That's
like,
really
I thought it
funny.
was amazing.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about being in the news spotlight is like I somehow ended up being reconnected to people on Twitter from like 10 years ago. Like 10 years ago, Twitter was very small and like everyone was connecting. No one was in the kind of silos that we find ourselves in now.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I guess I was famous enough to break out of the silo for a little bit, and then people were like, "Oh, Adriel, it's good to see what you've been, it's good to see what you've been up to." People I hadn't was last tweeting with them in 2009. Yeah.
All right, so real quick, I was thinking since we have like because obviously I know you have stuff to do, like go win the governorship of the state of California. I thought real quick what I would do just for people who aren't up to speed. So there's a couple of good videos online, and then of course I know you have a couple of your ads that we can actually run and show people what it is you're doing. But I thought maybe I would. There's a couple of good breakdown videos that are short that show the initial Zuckerberg AOC headbutt about this when this all started in Congress that day. And I know you've seen them. Like, I know Now This did one. I know a lot of people broke it down into like a manageable.
Yeah, Now This was
segment.
really good. There was a good CNN International spot that broke it down really well. Their international anchors are a lot better than the U.S. folks.
Okay, so real quick, just so people, we get a lot of people here in the room who aren't even from America, but like they're fascinated with American politics because it's such a 24/7, 365 shit show. It's like the ultimate reality show. So when we talk theory and basic stuff, a lot of people get it. When we start talking about granular stuff from specific states, it's stuff that a lot of people hadn't heard of. And then, we'll play a video or read an article and people just look at us and they're like, does that really happen in America? And we're like, oh yeah. So when I told people, hey, the fake Facebook ad gubernatorial candidate's coming on our show, and people are like, what the hell are you talking about? So I figure real quick we'll get people up to speed just so they know what's going on here. And then I kind of want to go through like what happened with the first couple of ads and then just show how ludicrous Facebook is about allowing any candidate or any party to literally put fake schlock up on the internet, and Facebook's just like, hey, it's cool. Like, we don't have to be socially responsible. Like, you started a whole firestorm with this, and it was absolutely well played, sir.
Thank you.
So real quick,
you won't take down lies, or
so for people who have not seen this, Mark Zuckerberg appeared before the House. And they were discussing the spread of fake ads and how dark money gets filtered through cryptocurrency into Facebook for Facebook advertising, for political ads, and the fact that nobody fact checks them. And usually when you have these meetings in front of Congress, it's these old 90-year-old white dudes who are like, do your internets have bugs in them? And does that mean I could actually get fleas and ticks in my house? And people are like, no, that's not what any of that means. Because AOC was actually born before 1950, unlike fucking everybody else in Congress. She actually knows how the internet works. And this was quite possibly one of the most epic takedowns of like a multi-billionaire live on television in the history of humanity. And this kind of started the ball rolling on the whole thing. So real quick, just so you know what's going on.
you will take down lies. I think this is just a pretty simple yes or no.
Congresswoman.
You announced recently that the official policy of Facebook now allows politicians to pay to spread disinformation in 2020 elections and in the future. So I just want to know how far I can push this in the next year. Under your policy, using census data as well, could I pay to target predominantly Black zip codes and advertise them the incorrect election date?
No, Congresswoman, you couldn't. We have, even for these policies around the newsworthiness of content that politicians say, and the general principle that I believe that...
But you said you're not going to fact check my ads.
We have, if anyone, including a politician, is saying things that that is calling for violence or could risk imminent physical harm or voter or census suppression when we roll out the census suppression policy, we will take that content down.
So you will, there is some threshold where you will fact check political advertisements. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, Congresswoman, yes, for specific things like that, where there's imminent risk of harm.
Could I run ads targeting Republicans in primaries saying that they voted for the Green New Deal?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Would I be able to run advertisements on Facebook targeting Republicans in primaries saying that they voted for the Green New Deal? I mean, if you're not fact-checking political advertisements, I'm just trying to understand the bounds here. What's fair game?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I think
so. You don't know if I'll be able to do that.
I think probably.
Do you see a potential problem here with a complete lack of fact-checking on political advertisements?
Well, Congresswoman, I think lying is bad, and I think if you were to run an ad that had a lie, that would be bad. That's different from it being, in our position, the right thing to do to prevent your constituents or people in an election from seeing that you had lied.
So you won't take down lies, or you will take down lies? I think this is just a pretty simple yes or no.
Congresswoman,
I'm not talking about spin. I'm talking about actual
yes, in most cases, in a democracy, okay. I believe that people should be able to see for themselves what politicians that they may or may not vote for
so
are
you
saying,
won't take
judge
them
their
down.
Character for themselves.
So you won't take. You may flag that it's wrong, but you won't take it down.
Congresswoman, it depends on the context that it shows up. Organic post ads, the treatment is a little
One
different.
one more question. In your ongoing dinner parties with far-right figures, some of who advance the conspiracy theory that white supremacy is a hoax, did you discuss so-called social media bias against conservatives, and do you believe there is a bias?
Congresswoman, so I don't remember everything that was in the question.
That's all right, I'll move on. Can you explain why you've named the Daily Caller, a publication well-documented with ties to white supremacists, as an official fact checker for Facebook?
Congresswoman, sure. We actually don't appoint the independent fact checkers. They go through an independent organization called the Independent Fact Checking Network that has a rigorous standard for who they allow to serve as a fact checker.
So you would say that white supremacist-tied publications meet a rigorous standard for fact-checking? Thank you.
Congresswoman, I would say that we're not the one assessing that standard. The International Fact Checking Network is the one who is setting that standard.
So, Adriel, was that what you saw the first time that kind of got you rolling on all this? Was that the appearance?
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard about it all day, and I was seeing snippets on Twitter, and it wasn't until like late in the evening that I watched it, and I was like, wait a minute, I think that we could do that ad. And like within 2 days we had it, and it was funny because I thought maybe we'd missed the news cycle, and that the press had moved on, but everyone was really itchy to follow up on that,
Because I thought this was one of the best appearances ever. And again, full disclosure for people out there, act.tv itself has a substantially large Facebook presence with, a dozen pages with, I don't know, about 4.2 million followers. I have a Facebook page with 1.3 million followers, just myself, like my own. So I understand Facebook advertising and how granular it is. And I know Adriel has seen a lot of it too, where on Facebook, you can literally drill down to an ethnicity.
Can you excuse me? I'll be right back, James.
Oh, yeah. Go do what you got to do.
Just for a minute.
Yeah. So on Facebook, you can literally drill down an ad by gender, age, zip code. And this was how Trump ran his voter suppression campaign maybe 2 weeks before the general election, where Brad Parscale spent a shit ton of money, and they sent very targeted, specific ads to different places. Oh, sorry, we had a quick video up in there real quick. Hang on, I'll just put something up here real quick. So what happened? Hold on, Slayus. If it's a private platform, they can do as they wish, and the electorate can also choose to not use that product. Oh, the free market argument. Yes. However, government officials should not be allowed to buy fake advertising and then distribute it to their constituency. Like, no company should be complicit in what is, I don't know, fraud, treason, any number of crimes. I mean, because obviously if you believe in the free market, then you believe in property rights. And if you believe in property rights, then surely, government officials shouldn't be allowed to take other people's footage and make fake ads out of them, and then lie to their constituency so that they purchase political favor in what is essentially a subsidized and unfree market. Correct? Would I have gotten even close there? Please feel free to let me know. I think it's a collective action issue. Government should prevent spreading of misinformation. Correct. No person running for public election should be allowed to spread lies on their official platform. Correct. I don't think the onus is on Facebook either. There should be a government regulation. While I don't disagree with you, the issue with that is that asking government to regulate itself is kind of ludicrous. In the 5,000-year-long recorded history of human civilizations, no government has ever turned around and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, people. Here, let me willingly give you back a whole bunch of your power." That's not something that happens. Government only writes restrictions to restrict people, not itself. So what happened is, because Adriel here, who just came back, so Adriel as a person and as a Facebook user was not permitted to run fake ads. It was considered propaganda and fake news. And they took down his first ad, correct? The one that you put when you were still a person?
Yeah, and I ran it as a pack. And this is, I mean, the interesting thing about Facebook and these ad policies is there's been a lot of controversy about this ever since the 2016 election, because we know that state actors, and there's multiple countries. The one that's cited the most is Russia, and not only doing organic activities, like pretending to be groups, or and creating memes and things that potentially could go viral, did go viral in some cases, I'm sure, or at least have some reach. They also were buying advertisements. I think it was about $100,000 that was spent by state-connected figures to purchase ads. And that's the weird thing about it is that's just a drop in the bucket compared to what the official Trump campaign spent. And so the danger now, so there's been lots of attention and lots of writing. And I was just yesterday reading a report that some researchers put together out of Stanford in June. And it talked about really, it's like a in-depth, long report with potential remedies, and one of the authors of some portions of this was a Facebook security executive, and there's been a lot of criticism from Facebook executives. The problem today is that even if you can stop the foreign actors from influencing our election, Donald Trump is like the lyingest president that is, lyingest politician that anyone's ever conceived of. Like, I don't think you could create a fictional character as full of hot air as Trump, and especially not one who can deliver with such almost like a religious fervor. So where like you've got a mob style administration that's also appealing to the evangelical movement, right? It's pretty insane. And Facebook, because it has like 250 million Americans who use it on a regular basis, is an incredibly potent tool for spreading propaganda and disinformation. And if you read about the 2016 election, the Russian interference was one thing, but the Trump campaign was openly explaining how they were using negative advertising targeted at base groups to keep them from voting. So when Zuckerberg says that like census and voting, like you can't lie and say that the voting day is on a different day, election day is on a Wednesday, you can't do that. But what you can do is say, like, Hillary Clinton hates black people and wants them all in jail, right? And run those ads. And people who think that this is not a problem, wait until Bernie Sanders is the nominee and they're doing it to him. And it's really hard because disinformation is it's about confirmation bias. A lot of the crap that's on Facebook that's about politics, particularly on the right, is actually just to make money. It's not even to convince people of things. It's to reconfirm their existing biases and use the most aggressive and incendiary rhetoric, and then get people to click and to either buy products. It could be pamphlets, it could be organic soaps or whatever, or it can be simply they're getting ad revenue when people click on a Facebook post.
Hey, last year, because I actually follow these things, last year Ben Shapiro spent $1.1 million in Facebook advertising, just as an example.
Right, and his rhetoric is actually probably more incendiary than the stuff that the Internet Research Agency, the big kind of Russian troll farm, was putting up. And this is the thing is that I first used Facebook ads, I think, was when I ran for Congress in 2009. This is not my first rodeo, and it was very early in the use of digital tools for politics, and I was doing things like I announced my campaign on Twitter, and I had a Ning community, and I had a Facebook page, and I was running Facebook ads. And at that time, I was able to target employees of the big employers in my district directly. So I could say, like, Budweiser Brewers for Adriel Hampton for Congress, and I'm forgetting which other ones I did, but I definitely did that. And it reached like 60 people. Facebook has changed micro-targeting a lot over the past 10 years, but one of the things that critics, I think there are two big lines of thinking about like how to deal with this issue, or maybe three. One, I think that they should just, if they have these independent fact checkers that they're claiming are so independent, he doesn't even know how the Daily Caller got on the list, right? It comes from this other group. Why exempt politicians? And if you trust your fact checkers, and in that sense, it seems almost like they're buying off the whole fact-checking community, because they're all on these big retainers to do the fact checks, and then they're told, but just leave the politicians alone. And a lot of them will go ahead and fact check the politicians on their own website, but it doesn't impact Facebook. So I think that you treat everyone the same. If my PAC ad is going to be pulled, Donald Trump's ads, it's political committees are just political committees. They aren't people. No. The Donald Trump campaign is not Donald Trump. He's the biggest part of it. It probably wouldn't work without him. But the people running the ads are basically people with backgrounds in like affiliate marketing and like really heavy getting people to give away their telephone number so you can call them and ask for donations, etc. The second line of thinking is around the micro-targeting, and it's saying like, okay, well, if you're doing a political ad, maybe you want to reach like, women voters, but do you really need to reach women voters with this level of education who like these kinds of Facebook pages and who are most active on Wednesday nights, and the amount of data Facebook has is really overwhelming. There was the whole Cambridge Analytica scandal, and there's the Great Hack documentary on Netflix. But at the end of the day, Facebook has all that data. They have more of it. And it's been shown, the research that went into like developing psychometric advertising on Facebook is the kind of research that shows that with a small number of Facebook likes, like which pages you like, they can determine things about you, not only about your personality, your ideology, and even your demographics with a high degree of certitude. So Facebook already has all of this, and they're using it and allowing people to use it for politics. And the example I said is, so we made an ad through the gubernatorial campaign. Another amazing volunteer who, if people need video work, I can for their campaigns, he's wants to do it. We did an ad where Mitch Mcconnell appears to be supporting the impeachment of Donald Trump. And I'm trying to make a point at this point. I'm not trying to create mischief. And the more I've thought about it, the less I really want to do intentionally false things to impact the election. I think this is the problem I'm trying to stop. So when I'm fighting fire with fire, it's through the media to bring attention to this. But I guess a politician could run ads like this, and they could target them, like this ad implying that McConnell is a big impeachment booster. You would run it to people who like conservative content, who are probably older, lower level of education, but also highly likely to engage. And those are all easy targeting criteria. And at that point, the ad becomes much more believable, because you've got people who are reactive. They'll start yelling about it right away. Now, I did another one through, I guess it was my first ad under the governor campaign, and it was implying that Sean Hannity was going to replace Mike Pence on the ticket with Trump for 2020. And that one, I ran it more broadly, but I didn't. It reached like 10,000 people, and it was reactive people, and people were saying fake news, fake news, fake news. They really didn't understand the point, And that's actually scary too, because when you're doing this kind of activism, like I'm alerting the media and it's getting covered, and like it's almost like it's getting interpreted in different ways. Like when Fox News reports on it, it's like, look at these liberals making fake ads, you know. But the next one, Trump's base is so baked in that my main goal for 2020, honestly, as an activist and as a consultant to progressives, and as a technology, advocate, is base turnout. We've got to get our base out. We have to increase our base. You don't worry about pissing off these horrible people who are locked in for Trump, because I think, and also you shame the people who shouldn't be part of his base, who should know better. We all know people like that, these are people like Chamber of Commerce Republicans, and we need to suppress their votes. And so it's like, get our base out and make people who are fence sitters really uncomfortable about voting for Trump, and hope they stay home. We're working on an ad right now that's from the committee for the re-election of the president, and it has echoes of a former president who was also impeached. And I think that all of our ads are designed, and this is going to come from the Really Online Lefty League, and these ads are designed to get media reaction, media attention, to get people talking, because anything that people are talking about is memorable, and we're having fun with it. That's for sure.
Okay, so I'm just gonna just so people know what you're talking about. So real quick, just to circle back what you were talking about. So I had actually written. I wrote a Medium article about a left after the about a week after the election that had actually went, well, I guess as close to viral as you can get with a Medium article, because it's Medium. I had actually this was right after 098. So I had been writing for US Uncut. I know you and I have a mutual friend over in that neighborhood, and we got our Facebook page pulled the day, the final day of the DNC. And we had done, I think, 34 million click-throughs on articles that month already. We were like, we had just beaten Politico that month. We were like the number 8 news page domestically, and like 15th in the world on Alexa when we got banged out. And so I had taken to writing Medium articles. And what a lot of people don't understand was the very targeted voter suppression campaign that Brad Parscale ran, and that guy's like a freaking evil genius. So like, if you were like, specifically, if you were a black woman and you lived in Detroit and you logged on to Facebook, the whole week before the election, literally the first thing you saw every time you logged onto Facebook was a video from the 1980s of Hillary Clinton calling black people super predators. And, if you were a white conservative woman who also had a church tagged as a place you go to, or a page you like on Facebook, every time you logged on before the election, the first thing you saw was a clip of Hillary Clinton saying that she approved banning some third trimester pregnancies at a debate. And it was very specifically targeted. Like, they went through and they basically identified the 100 voting districts in swing states that Obama won by the least margin in the previous election. And those were the voting districts that they specifically ran these digital voter suppression campaigns. And they used, between the Cambridge Analytica data and then the granular Facebook targeting, they drove down, Democratic voter turnout in specific districts that they need to win, because they knew they would not win a popular vote in the general election. Like, they did every single, diagram, and they hired epidemiologists to run stats on it. And they were like, there's legitimately no way we can win. So we just have to, like, suppress voter turnout. And I mean, obviously it worked.
Yeah.
Because there were states that shouldn't have flipped.
It's strange to me, because one of my big things on the left, and I guess this cycle people are starting to take it much more seriously. There's the outfit out there, Acronym, which has a spinoff Pacronym, and they're kind of an inheritor, I guess, of some of the American priorities, like it's big PAC money, but they are operating more like a digital, like a boutique digital agency, and getting out there and really fighting Trump in the trenches with rich people's money, which I'm never going to complain about that.
You mean like us?
Hmm?
You mean like act.tv?
Yeah, like act.tv. I mean, you guys are doing. You guys have been around for a long time and have set the standard in many ways. I think that the issue with and Bob, who supports act.tv, has been really forward-looking on and online for decades. And there are people like that. What's scary with the political industry is that it's usually it really trails traditional like marketing. And when you think about it, that a political campaign is a marketing campaign. And I know that we want to be like, we want to think so much more of the institutions and sometimes the people, especially the ones that we like. But ultimately, like, for example, running in California, this is a state with like 40 million people. You're going to need several million people to vote for you to win a governor's race, right? And so you're talking about huge amounts of money, and also the efficiencies being huge. So if you can spend money, if you can tell a story on the internet, or in the case of the Trump campaign, suppress voters in 100 different cities with maybe several hundred different ads, that's a small, tiny fraction of what you would have to do to try to tell that same story and have that same effect with mail. And so we've seen, I think, the Republicans kind of coming out of the Obama years wanting to have an edge and finding that in digital spending. And the Democrats kind of now starting to catch up, and the spending catching up. But for a while, the disparity between how much brands spend on digital versus how much campaigns spend on digital as a portion of their media budget, the competing with things like TV buys and the mailers and maybe robocalls or telephone town halls, emails. The Republicans like a lot to invest in like other people's email lists. But Facebook is like, it is so cheap and so effective. And on the left, there's been a little bit of a thing where people are like, well, advertising doesn't work. It's all about field. But then you explain, like, how do you explain Tom Steyer? He's not, I don't think he's doing field in South Carolina, maybe. But it's when you can blanket the TV. When I did this statewide campaign I consulted on for the 2018 cycle, we were outspent 100-1 in the primary. Like, we raised like $200,000 in the other campaign, and an IE that was working very diligently. It was literally run by the candidate's father. I love an independent expenditure run by a relative. It's amazing. But like $20 million, and so like I would walk into a bar or a restaurant or a hotel, and the ads for the other candidate would be on, anywhere in the state. And this is, Trump says that he wants to do $1 billion campaign, and a lot of that will be spent on Facebook.
And that's horrifying. So to put that in perspective, I think the estimated value of all the free earned media credit that he got for the full 2 years, leading up to the election. So I think industry people pinned it at somewhere between $4 to $5 billion worth of free earned media credit he got, just from all the pieces about him and how many times he was on all the other news shows. And 2 weeks before the Facebook election, they spent like $100,000 on Facebook ads, comparative to $4 billion. And like the $4 billion in earned media credit got Trump all the national attention and got him on the national polls. But a piddly $100,000 Facebook ad purchase
might have bought him the election.
Yeah, that won him the election. The $4 billion put him on the map. The $100,000 he spent on Facebook is what won the election, though. Like, make no bones about that. Like, straight up, that shit happened. Like,
one of the hopes, I guess, is that they'll saturate their base so much that they'll get turned off. But I don't know if that could happen.
like you made the very good point before that it's not like you're going to dissuade like Trump's base, like that 20 to 22% of America who's just like, I'm a vote Trump to own the libs. Like, you're not going to get those people no matter what you do. Now, for example, my parents, who are nominally bougie, retired white people, you know, my dad was a cop, my mom like was a, you know, a cook in a restaurant. Like, they weren't like kicking ass or anything, but they did all right. And so they're like fairly normal. Like, they're not even liberals. They're just like, they're straight. They're dead in the middle. So like, they voted for Obama, you know, both times. And then a couple months ago, my parents were here for Thanksgiving, and they told me that they actually voted for Trump last election. And I was like, and these are like fairly well-educated people, you know, like my father likes to brag that he's like 70 years old and he has 5,000 Facebook friends. And I'm just like, oh, good Lord, I'm fucking doing something wrong here. Because number one, I should no longer be on Facebook. And how the hell does my old man have 5,000 friends? But like, my parents are the people who I would think you and people like you, people who are working in digital consultancy as the ramp ups, you know, towards the general come about, that those are the people that you're trying to get back, the people that you're trying to tip, the people who are, I don't even want to call them centrists, just people who they're not voting for Trump to own the libs, and they're not people who just automatically pull the blue lever on autopilot. Like, that's still like a decent chunk of the population. I'd have to imagine that, like, those are the people you're trying to capture. Like, you're not trying to be like the parrot in the Echo Dome, right? Like, you're not making lefty videos for the left so the left can clap itself on the back. Like, you're trying to move the needle on this, right?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where you are and what you're doing. I do think that like, we have a couple of big challenges on the left that have digital components. You know, one is the feuding between supporters of the two progressive candidates, which is difficult. And then I think it's the fact that everyone right now is still spending to win the primary. Like, could you imagine how well we'd be doing if half the money that's being spent right now was actually advertisements for Medicare for All, for example? Like, can you imagine that Bernie Sanders Medicare for All advertisements that tell the story of how, for the average family, your medical bills each year are going to go down from, even if you have insurance, from $12,000 a year to $1,200 a year, $1,500 a year, right? You know, and the right now, Trump is able to define the field. You know, he's able to define the general election, and we're still fighting with each other over, you know, whether Warren and Sanders, you know, can exist in the same space, and it's
the infamous left circular firing squad.
We really can't help ourselves. It's like, and that is the passion that drives. It's similar to the kind of passion that drives the conservatives as well. I think it's very emotional. It's not highly rooted in logic, especially around electoral outcomes. And they just found this perfect vehicle. Whereas we, you know, as a movement, definitely, I'd have to say that the movement is split. Even though I feel like Bernie Sanders is the movement candidate, there are definitely movement people, you know, and organizations that are with Warren. And then you have that issue of folks like your parents it might be that Warren's really appealing to them. I don't know, because that bit about going after, you know, wealthier white folks with a candidate, you know, who they feel safe, senator from Massachusetts, not a radical socialist. But on the other hand, what Trump is doing, he had an ad up that someone from Acronym flagged, and it had a phone number, and I called the phone number, and it's like a telemarketing, like automated call, and then you push one, and then it's Alan West, like, and he's referring to the Progressive Socialist Democratic Party over and over. These progressive socialists. So not only will they call all of, the Democrats socialists, now they're like really hip to making sure that the word progressive is linked to the word socialist. And so I think that I don't know how to, I don't know if we need to necessarily win over people like your parents who voted for Trump. We need to get people who didn't vote to be inspired to vote. And that's actually probably my biggest concern about how the primary is playing out is we're devolving into a place where there's not a lot of inspiration, except then, these pithy tweets from Joe Biden, asking us to go back to Andy and Mayberry,
Oh, I'm still trying to get over
Bieber.
Mike Bloomberg. I'm still trying to get over that one.
I was amazed by their Twitter thing on the debate night. It was pretty funny. I think I know some of the people who work in the Bloomberg ad shop, and they basically hired this is what's interesting is I felt like what Russian agents and what the Trump campaign did with social media in 2016 was not revolutionary. It was just revolutionary for politics because all of this stuff was going on in the brand space. So Bloomberg is he's snapping up really good professionals, and it's hard no matter how good you are if your candidate isn't that exciting. But what they did on debate night, where they basically devolved into bizarre joke mode for about 3 hours, and it looked like it had been hacked or someone had taken over the account. But it got everybody talking about it, and we're still talking about it. And otherwise, a candidate like Bloomberg is so boring on social media.
Well, I got two things on that. Number one, you are right, because I actually took a snapshot of Twitter that night when all those tweets were coming out, and my exact post on Facebook was either Bloomberg's Twitter account has been hacked or somebody is having a stroke. Because it was the only, that was it. It was one or the other. But actually, so I saw the Bloomberg TV ads run the week before watching NFL football. And it literally, this was primetime Sunday playoff football. And I'm not even joking. It was basically a 10-hour-long Mike Bloomberg, Tom Steyer commercial with some football smattered into it. And honestly, to me, the biggest thing that stuck was that stuffy old billionaire Mike Bloomberg, he couldn't possibly win. But hey, we'd like to introduce you to the much gentler, much kinder, much more casual, laid-back billionaire next door. His name's Mike Bloomberg. Mike's kind of a chill guy. And next thing I know, there's a Mike Bloomberg Twitter, and there's, Mike Bloomberg, there's pictures of him, and he looks like Don Jr. wearing the flannel when he's sitting in the forest staring at nothing. He's the everyman billionaire next door. And all of a sudden, Mike Bloomberg was everywhere. And the hilarity to me was that, a week later, Steyer qualified and Bloomberg didn't.
Yeah. It's, I don't know what to think about that exactly. I do know that Bloomberg's also running ads in Puerto Rico, which is TV ads. And
really?
They're finding when you have the money to do it, there are all these different ad sources. For example, I learned that you can do these short little audio ads, and you send them to you can basically you customize them for each little radio station, and you could do hundreds of these for $50 a piece. But it's the work it's the knowledge to know that you can do them, and then it's the work, the clerical work to do them. One of the things that we've done in this campaign against Facebook's policies, I guess I think I missed. I talked about the micro-targeting. I talked about the fact-checking. Another thing is that Facebook has what's called a flat stream, where things don't really jump out. Every piece of content looks very similar. The styling is very similar. And Facebook's coming out with a new design, and I'm interested to see what that brings. But on the advertising front, one of the big complaints has been that the ads are really indistinguishable from regular content. Now, folks like me love that, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because it's like people eat it up.
Yeah, it's innocuous. You can slide it into the feed. People almost don't realize they're being advertised to if they don't look hard enough.
Exactly. Yeah, and even like, a lot of the information, you have to click like a more info button to see it, and very few people are going to do that. Facebook came out and announced last week some changes upcoming, and one of them was the ability to opt out of some political ads. But how it's a small number of people, and I think it'll be in the single digits percentage wise, who will go into their settings and say, I want to see less political ads, or they've already done that, like they've already put on an ad blocker. So one of the suggestions would be, for example, to have like a green background, like how when you get a mailer, it has that box on the bottom that says who paid for it,
yeah.
And that box is regulated by the FEC. And because the internet is post-regulation, the regulations just really have not been updated. You have that ability to have like a flat experience where people don't see the ads. But what if it had a green screen? And what if it was a politician's ad and they had opted out of fact checking, for example? Because that's an interesting thing. You could say politicians can opt in or out of fact checking. If you opt in, your ads have a green screen. If you opt out of fact checking, your ads have a red screen and a disclaimer that says this ad is not the truth of this ad cannot be confirmed, right? And but instead, Facebook wants to do little tiny things that won't actually impact Trump, because Trump is good for their business. And also being good to Trump, keeps him out of their business.
Yeah, I got a notification last week, and again, this is random, like because I admin like 20 Facebook pages, so every once in a while I get like a random email, and I had gotten a message that one of some post on one of the pages that had gone out, that had been out for a while. It was a post that had been up for months, and it was like a video we had done with act.tv, and I got a notification that independent fact checkers had flagged our video as being fake news or not factually correct. And it's the first time I've ever gotten one of these notifications. And again, like, I have a background in television production. I have 3 Emmy Awards. Like, I'm used to dealing with standards and practices when I work on a reality show or an award show where, you have to show voting metrics. You have to be able to, even though you don't show it on TV, you have to be able to go to standards and practices, which is essentially a government pass-through agency to confirm that you're just not shifting the bar and just naming whoever you want to be the winner to be the winner. So I was boggled that we got one of those messages on, about an act.tv video that had been out for months that nobody said boo about. And then all of a sudden the Independent Fact Checking Association, which includes, goddamn Ben Shapiro and the Daily Caller, mystically now we're like the Bad News Bears on Facebook. We got the
I think it's
X.
Tucker Carlson, which is even scarier, because I think he's connected to bigger money.
Yeah, but it's
Daily
adorable
Caller.
that you think Tucker Carlson does work. That man ain't working.
What was the deal with that independent fact check? How did you resolve that? Because that's what happened to my PAC ad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we were allowed to send, and you're allowed to basically like contest it, and there's a button you press and then a form you fill out, and then maybe you hear back from them, maybe you don't. I know I haven't gotten a notification since that, so I have no idea. Like, for all we know, we have a giant red X against us, and meanwhile, like we have like a whole fact-checking department at act.tv. Like, we hire people like, Juliana's been a professional on radio for 20 years. Like, I won Emmys producing TV. Like, we're not hiring, Schloopy, who just like fell off the back of a turnip truck and is like, I have a cell phone. Like we actually know what we're doing. And Facebook just like came up and went bop and like bopped us on the back of the head. And I'm like, oh, good. This is a harbinger of things to come. Now, meanwhile, if I was a politician or if I was Donald Trump, I bet you Trump doesn't get any of those notifications. Brad Parscale doesn't get those.
Yeah, one of the thing is, it's not just blatant falsehoods. Like, to make the point, I've had to make my falsehoods as blatant as possible, right? And sometimes people are like, it doesn't come out and it doesn't have McConnell saying I support impeachment. It needs to be more blatant. But, so far the point has gotten across. But for Trump, all he needs to do is distort reality enough to get more clicks, more comments, more phone numbers. and also to suppress the vote. And so it doesn't have to say vote on Wednesday. It can say, did you know that Bernie Sanders hates black people? Or that like Bernie, when Black Lives Matter, he pushed them off the stage. And then to the racist whites, you're like, Bernie got pushed off the stage by Black Lives Matter. And Trump is literally running ads that speak of contests where you get to go have a meal with him, and then there's no evidence, this was in Popular Information, that he's having those meals with people. The only evidence, and I think it was released through the Daily Caller, I believe, that like one person won and got to meet Trump and take a picture with him. But if you run ads saying, you can win a dinner with me, in Chicago, and then all these people, are excited about that from your base, and then you don't do it, that one's abusive to his base. But if he's willing to do that to the base, what is he willing to do to, to Democratic and more independent and swaying voters?
Yeah. All right, so real quick, just for people who are coming into the chat, so the person in the room with me, his name is Adriel Hampton. He is a candidate for the gubernatorialship of the state of California, and essentially he is running on a platform of running blatantly fake Facebook ads to shame Mark Zuckerberg into maybe having some kind of accountability for allowing politicians to just run fake ads with whatever fucking content they want with no fact checking. And it's really brilliant. It's kind of like almost like real world next level trolling. Like you took trolling and you made like trolling squared. And as a professional troller and part-time shitposter, I applaud you, sir. I applaud you for moving the needle.
I have many great inspirations, and I couldn't do it without the great video editors who've, I'm like, I can come up with the concepts, but I'm not a video producer, by trade. And it's been interesting, even though video doesn't do great on Facebook at all these days, like say the last year. Yeah, I think that's appropriate. It is hard to do good video on Facebook. It's hard to get it to perform well.
With act.tv then, sir. That's what you need to do. You should cross-post more with act.tv.
There you go. Yes. Well, you got to be careful though, because anyone who cross-posted my last ad, I think I don't know if they got a ding themselves. They even gave me 2 dings for the same ad, which I thought was unfair, and I think I missed the deadline to appeal it by like 1 day because I was so busy doing media. But the beauty of it is that I just opened it. The Online Lefty League got dinged twice, and the first time it was blatantly false. The second time was like, here's the ad that's being covered by the news, and then they dinged that one, and it's like, it's the same one. I can't get 2 dings. But then I just opened Adriel Hampton for governor, and the weird thing was Facebook made a statement, and I think this was their biggest mistake, saying that they would continue to fact check me because I was openly saying I was going to run fake ads. And by making that statement, they set up this conflict, and then in the facts of it are that they have to watch you really closely, or else they're not going to even know you're putting up ads because their system's so huge. It's just like, I don't know if they probably have to build new software specifically, if Adriel runs an ad, you like flag this person, right?
Congratulations. You made a list. Yeah. You made a list. You're now like me. Congratulations. By the way, if I were you, anytime you plan to fly out of the country, you now need to budget an extra 4 hours for the security checkpoint. Just saying, it's a thing. So listen, real quick, I know I only got you for a couple more minutes here. You have this one ad here for the Conservatives for a Green New Deal, which is actually up on the leftyleague.org, which I know Andre put a link in the chat before. If somebody else could drop a link in again while we're doing this, I appreciate it. Can we take I just want people to see like the kind of like Facebook ads that you're running to prove the point that Facebook is really, really shady for not fact-checking ads. I want to give people a taste.
The one I really like is this Mcconnell ad that we just did because it's so contemporary.
Is it up on this site or is it on a YouTube?
If you go to, it's pinned on my Twitter.
Okay, Hang on.
which is probably easy enough to access.
What's your on Twitter?
At Adriel Hampton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I kind of pinned like the story so far, although I need to probably update it and repin it because I stopped running this ad because it had already been covered. This one was covered by Maddow, which was pretty cool.
Oh, wow. And you actually came here to talk to me, man. I am like, I'm absolutely floored. All right, so real quick. So,
I'm a longtime fan of act.tv. So.
Oh, dude. We've been at this for so long, and we came over here on Twitch, and people are like, who the hell's act.tv? And I'm like, oh, God, we're literally starting over from scratch again. Like, it's I kind of like it. Like, it totally jazzed me up. You know, like, when you make content for the same people, like, every day for 5 years, you know, like, same colors, same this, you kind of go on autopilot. And Twitch came, and I was like it instantly like re-sparked me because it's like a whole new world to conquer, and there's no algorithm. Zero. There's no algorithm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I'm wanting to get onto Twitch. I'm thinking about doing a thing where I have a 15-year-old son who spent the last 5 years in Tokyo. He's half Japanese, and getting him and then one of my campaign advisors to play video games, and we'll talk politics, you know, so it'll be a stream. It will be like Battlefront or something, but we'll discuss politics and kind of like from an internationalist perspective.
Oh my God. Okay. So you need to holler at your boy here. Cause straight up when I, after spending months on Twitch, I was like the advanced scout, and they're like, so what is it we want to do on Twitch? And I came here for like 3 months, and I came back to report back, and, you know, we're all sitting around the act.tv table, and everybody's like, so what should we do on Twitch? And I'm like, so here's my idea. I've spent 3 months doing hundreds of hours of granular research, and what I've come up with is that we should play Castle Wolfenstein and shoot Nazis in the face while we talk about fascism. And everybody around the table was like, but are you serious? And I'm like, shit, yeah, man, it's Twitch.
It'd be huge.
Like, they looked at me like I was crazy. And now it's like 3 months later, and they're like, hey, James, where are we on that
Got a copy of
fascist...
Wolfenstein?
Yeah, where's that shooting Nazi thing? Where are we on that? So apparently great minds think alike. All right, so real quick. So I want to show people this. So this is pinned up on the top of Adriel's Twitter page. You can find him at Adriel Hampton. I see Andre put in a link for both your Twitter and the website into the chat. So y'all can find Adriel real quick and you can add him up. So this is his fake Mitch McConnell ad. Again, blatantly fake. It's not like he's trying to, you know, fool your grandma with some shady stuff. Like, it's almost like satirical. It's so blatantly fake.
And does that one play there, or
let me see. This is just an image.
That's just the image. I think if you scroll down a little, there it is.
Hey,
that
look,
with the horse. Yeah.
Hey,
that's me on CNN. Yeah.
I would just like to.
I got to go on CNN and
is.
say, you know, Trump lies all the time. He keeps saying that the Democrats are socialists. I'm a socialist. The Democrats are not.
Yeah, so this is just hilarious. I'm just pointing out that Adriel's sitting here on my Twitch channel, and we roll through his Twitter feed. And, oh, yeah, by the way, he was on primetime in CNN. Yeah, suck it, Sam Cedar.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, it's just you know, if the media is biased, it's because you have to just be more clever. That's my thing. Just okay, here we go.
Okay, so here we go. So this is here. Wait, I'm actually gonna. Let me do this real quick. Hang on, I'm going to shrink it down a little bit just so we're not blocking it. There we go. Look at this. Let me tell you, brother. OBS plus Twitch, the world is your oyster, man. Wait till you see this on the back end.
What is OBS?
OBS is online broadcasting suite or online broadcasting studio. It's essentially open source software so that you can turn your computer into a microwave broadcasting truck.
That's fantastic.
Like, you can do network quality stuff. Like, we're pushing out 1080p at 60 FPS right now. Movable shift frames. Like, wait till you see it. It's absolutely amazing. Don't be talking about my back end. Sorry, people in Twitch. Okay, so this is Adriel Hampton. He is a currently on the ballot for the governorship of the state of California on his platform of running ludicrously fake ads on Facebook to shame Mark Zuckerberg into possibly making Facebook accountable for allowing politicians to spread fake news in return for money. Here we go.
Crisis in our country. This is a crisis of confidence, of credibility, and of integrity. Our nation is indeed at a crossroads. Will we pursue the search for truth, or will we dodge, weave, and evade the truth? I am, of course, referring to the investigation into serious allegations of illegal conduct by the President of the United States.
So at some point here, this president needs to become the adult.
I don't know what I said.
Blood coming out of her wherever.
And his seeming ambivalence about David Duke and the KKK. So let me make it perfectly clear. Senate Republicans condemn David Duke, the KKK. There are constraints in this country. You don't get to do anything you want to. So
I would give myself an A+.
I would give myself an A+.
In terms of achievement, I think I'd give myself an A. Well, a lot of people have given me an A. Somebody gave me an A+.
Knock the crap out of her.
I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or if other people will.
Buffer.
we have rules of impeachment. Presumably, at some point, Senator Schumer and I will sit down and see if we can agree on a process.
Oh my God, that is freaking great. That is so.
So
that
one
is,
of the
that is
things
the ultimate
that
troll.
didn't get picked up a lot is that it was almost frame by frame a copy of a Trump ad that was also full of, you know, like the fighting. The Trump ads are very they're all about emotion,
Yeah.
right? And so we were kind of going for that. But what if you targeted that ad to like vulnerable people in McConnell's district? I think it would actually have a real impact.
Yeah. I'm sure there would be people who are like, "Oh, Mitch McConnell's gonna. He's a never Trumper now, rah!" And they'd freak out. I mean, like I said, my parents are. I mean, they're not like highly educated, but my parents they're smart people. They're educated. Like they're reasonable, rational people. They read the newspaper. You know, they watch a couple hours of the news every day. They're not watching like Alex Jones. Like, you know, they're like normal, middle of the road people. And, you know, I see some of like the spam emails that like my old man puts in like the chain emails, you know, like the occasional racist email you get from like your dad or your grandfather. And you're just like, oh, Dad. And it's not very hard. It's not very hard to fool older people, not because they're older, they're easily confused, but they're not people who grew up in a digital generation. So they do stuff differently. Like the youngs nowadays, you know, you're talking about there's a whole generation of kids who grew up with, you know, FaceTiming and cutting video on an iPad from the time they were 4. So to them, this is normal.
Right. So this stuff is like, it's funny if you know how it's done, but if you don't, people I think are taking things at face value a lot more than we think. You know, our perspective of people who are very online is like, yeah, just don't use Facebook. But it's like, but there's hundreds of millions of people there being influenced by the right on a daily basis. I'm going to have to jump in a few minutes here, James. Do you want to show that one clip? Do you have that? I think I sent you via Skype.
Oh, hang on. Let me check the Skype chat real quick. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah.
Hold on. It's so many windows. So what's hilarious is I actually have, I'm sharing my screen with Adriel. So he's actually looking at the 75 windows open on my computer, wondering what the hell is going on. Hold on. I do not.
No tentacle porn.
Okay, so you sent me the video, I think, embedded. I don't know if I can pull a link off of this.
Yeah. I don't know how you would. Yeah, it's not a link. It's such
you sent me
such a raw preview that I sent. You know, it's not a link. Yeah. No, this is so raw and fresh, man. This is hot off the Lefty League.
Oh my God. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to pull this in right now. Then give me 1 second. It's downloading. Let me check my recent downloads. I just got to see.
Oh yeah. So in terms of like how granular you can get with advertising when you have a lot of money, we were talking about Bloomberg. I ran digital billboard ads for Trump Zuckerberg 2020, and I had them on like at least half a dozen billboards in 4 different states. So.
Oh my Lord. Okay, hang on. I'm manually pulling this video over to Tower 2. So if y'all bear with me for 1 second and you hear that sound in the background, that is me pulling this video, and I'm going to drop it onto this rapid flash drive. I'm going to pull this over into Tower 2. Let me just eject that. I'm going to pull this. I'm going to drop it down here. Yeah, Adriel, this is what I went to college for. Yeah. All right, so this
I'm trying to think if we did meet in DC one time, maybe at Organizing 2.0.
Maybe, it was actually, oddly enough, and I feel bad, I still owe Lenchner one. He had asked me to do Organizing 2.0 to do a Facebook thing, just because and this is a sad condemnation of my life and my skill set, but I know more about the Facebook algorithm than any human being on the face of the planet, other than Facebook engineers, just because I've been tweaking the algorithm for 8 years. I've been gaming it. Like I growth hacked when there was growth hack. I double percentage point grew when there were no hacks and everybody else was down 4%. And freaking, I look at what's going on now, and I'm freaking horrified, because like nobody else knows what the hell's going on Facebook. And people like my age, we're bailing off of Facebook. People my parents' age, they don't fucking know. They're on Facebook like 10 hours a day now.
Yeah, it's scary.
And they just get like fake videos sent to them all day, and they don't know, and they're just pressing share.
This is basically Facebook has replaced that old the email chains where they would send you like the racist jokes.
Oh no! I still get those. Yeah. I get like
they
one
haven't
of those
phased out entirely. Now it's great. I'm really lucky because my dad, who was very conservative when I was growing up, became like a true hippie in his old age. Because he started out as a hippie and then got really religious, and he has turned on Trump so hard, and he voted for Clinton, and then now he's like canvassing for a congressional candidate and for voter turnout, like in his neighborhoods, and instead of sending bad jokes, he's like sending me the damage report by email.
I mean, it's progress. Hey, people say like you can't evolve. Like I said, my old man, I had to set up his first email account for him like 10 years ago, because he never had an email account. He's like, I guess I got to get one of these. Can you show me how to do it? And now he's like, oh, I got 5,000 Facebook friends, and I get like incredible. 800 shares a day. And I'm like, oh, it is so time to get the hell off of Facebook. All right, so real quick, so this is just a little snippet. Adriel sent us over from the Online Lefty League. This is sort of a snippet of the next fake Facebook ad that they will be running to further shame Mark Zuckerberg into perhaps taking some form of accountability and allowing politicians to just buy ad space on his platform and run vaguely fake news. So here we go, real quick. Never been seen before. I wish I had like some world premiere graphics for it. Here we go. The heck was that?
So this one, when we do stuff with the Lefty League, so for the gubernatorial campaign, it actually gets much more complicated if I start raising and spending a lot of money. So I'm relying on a lot of organic right now. The Really Online Lefty League can raise and spend money. And so what we have to do is, because if our ads are blatantly false, they get taken down. So what we're trying to do is stuff that's provocative enough that we get the attention of these assholes. And this one is going to be it's Committee to Re-elect the President was creep from the Nixon White House. And so we're trying to draw some strong comparisons to the Nixon White House and the Trump White House, and hopefully, we need a similar outcome, even if it's going to take the ballot box. But the idea is for the ads to be clever and provocative enough that they get media coverage, because we don't have a lot of money to spend on ads. The Lefty League has an Act Blue page, and we have some small donors, and we raise a little bit of money. They're kind of under the water at the moment, and this will be something that we'll say like, hey, should we advertise this at people who are old enough to remember Nixon, and see if it jogs their memory a bit about what it's like to have criminals running your administration. So we'll see how it does. And the Committee to Re-elect the President isn't a real group, but the ad does say who paid for it. So we'll see how Facebook responds when we try to advertise this. And that's just a teaser. That's just a 10-second spot. That most of it's going to be really blatant Nixon Trump illusions.
Well, when you get more stuff up, definitely send it to me. So look, I know you got a jam. You're a busy man. I mean, you're running for governor of the state of California, so
all right, it's a big state.
Every minute counts. So real quick, if people want to like keep up to date with you, keep up with what you're doing, sort of like hook into this, where should people go and find you?
I think my Twitter account is really the hub for everything I do, and that's just at Adriel Hampton. There is a website, Adriel numeral 4 California.org, and adrielhampton.com is my company website. But Twitter is where I have the most updates and do things like swear at Joe Kennedy III.
Okay, just put your stuff in here. All right, so Adriel, man, I'm super stoked you came by. I really appreciate it. Obviously I'm gonna see you again. So definitely like stay up with us. Let us know what's going on. If there's anything we can do to help you in your extremely noble cause, you know where to find me, man. Just holler at your boy.
All right, thanks a lot, James. I appreciate it. Thanks to everyone watching.
Thank you, Adriel. Thank you so much, man. Have a good day.
All right.
All right. Cheers. And then I'll do this. And bear with me here for 1 second. And then poof. Holy crap, guys. We got us a get. That was pretty dope, man. Adriel's the real deal. He's fighting fire with fire. You know, there's a lot of people who just want to stand on a soapbox and scream and yell ineffectively because it makes them feel better. And Adriel really channeled that into something extremely useful. God damn, that is awesome. Oh, yeah. All right, cool.